Okay, Gran. You probably don't want this paper in there. Okay, where were you born?
In Iowa, Iowa,
And what year was that?
in 1912.
What do you remember most about your childhood?
Oh, I can remember my mother when baby sister was born, and I can remember we had a rain barrel, and Sister Opal had baby chickens. Mother had baby chickens, and we also had a rain barrel. And I remember one time Sis took the baby chicken and dipped it in the rain barrel and tried to pick the feathers.
Oh.
Oh, Sis don't like for me to remember that, but I don't remember too much about it.
What was your mother's name?
Cora May, and Dad called her Bud, and Mother called Dad Ab. I never figured that out. How come it was always Ab and Bud? But I'm the oldest.
Okay, who are your brothers and sisters, Gran, and what's the birth order?
Tony Alvacy. It was next to me, and his birthday was January the 17th. And it's in the Bible at home what year. But he was 2 years younger than I, so it would be 1914. And then Brother Donald M., and he was born December 4th. And he's a year younger than Tony. And then there's Sister Opal, and she's 7 years younger than I. And I think she was born in 1919, April the 15th, 1919. And baby sister was born in, I believe it was in September, but she died just shortly after she was born. And I think it was in 1922, I think.
When your mother died?
Mother died in 1923. And it was in the fall, in October, I think it was. I'd have to get the Bible to remember all these dates and days.
And how did your life change after your mom died?
Oh, well, I know there was 3 years I didn't get to see my dad or my brothers. But Sis and I were always together. And in that time, we had moved from Iowa to North Dakota, this family that I lived with. And by the way, the Vi's nephew's sale was in the paper this past week.
Oh.
And then we came back to Iowa, and we lived at Climbing Hill. And Anson after that, and that's where I met Guy, was when I lived in Anson.
And how did you meet him?
Well, he brought, and the guy I was going with at that time, his car broke down So Guy brought him down. And in the meantime, then before the next weekend, I got a letter from him, and he wanted to go to a dance. And I accepted, and I never went with anybody else. It was always Guy after that.
How long between when you met that you got married?
Well, we met at Easter time, and we were married in August. So
1931.
in 1931.
And how old were you?
19 when we got married, and so was Guy. And we went to Elk Point, South Dakota, and Guy's brother Cleo and my friend Viola Hudson stood up with us, and we went to South Dakota, let's see, Elk Point. And when they asked how old we were, I said 19. When they asked Guy, he said 19. Well, we couldn't get married without his mother's consent then. So, but this JP told us that we could go to the next county, and he wouldn't tell on us. And so Guy got 21 while we were going that 25 mile. And we got married, and we moved to Benton. That's where his mother's place was, and it wound up Guy's because she had helped all the other kids, and she hadn't helped Guy, so she gave him the home place with the stipulation it was only to be painted white. And let's see, we lived in Ida Grove. I don't know whether it was in 46 or 47 that burned down, and we took the insurance from that then and bought where we're at.
Oh. So what year did you move to Ida Grove?
In 1945. But I've never lived out of the state of Iowa except when we went to North Dakota when I was a kid, about 11. And then Guy worked on a job in Kingston, Oklahoma. And we lived down there 3 years, I think it was.
And you were,
Otherwise, it's been Iowa.
and you were living in Benton when Mom was born?
Yes, she was born in 32, and August the 17th, 1932.
And did she started school in Benton?
Yes, we lived just across the road from the schoolhouse. And I can remember I stood in that front door all day looking at that schoolhouse. But
when you moved to Ida Grove, what did Gramps do?
we moved there in right after Christmas in 1945, and he went to work at his cousin's garage so Lois could finish high school in one school, and she graduated from Benton.
Or Ida
From
Grove?
Ida Grove, and she was 16 when she graduated. And we wanted her to go on to college, but she had all the studying she wanted, so she went to work for the telephone company. And she worked there for years, and then she went to work for Dr. Heilman as a secretary. And that's where she worked when she met Rolly. Of course, they had known one another in high school.
And where did you work then?
Well, after she and Rolly were married, then I went to work at Penny's, J.C. Penney's, and I worked there 8 years. And then I became a grandmother, and I worked at home.
What year did Dad and Mom got married in?
And
I know it was November 22nd.
In 1950,
50.
I think it was, yeah.
So it was 6 years before I was born.
Yes. And I can remember Rolly had been at our house till morning, and then he went to the hospital, and on his way, everybody he met, he stuck his head out the window and yelled, "It's a girl," because there hadn't been any girls in the family for 3 generations. And he was so happy that it was a girl.
And then a year later, Jay was born.
Yeah. And Stephanie was born in 56. Jay was born in 57. And Thad was born in 1960.
And we came to live with you and Gramps in 62.
Well, I started taking care of Thad when he was 1 year old. And then,
You'd go to Denison?
It's 4 o'clock.
no, Thad was 11 months old when Rolly and Lois separated her, or when she separated, I should say, because Rolly did not. And then, I don't know. What grade were you in when?
Well, I think I was 6, so I must have been in 1st grade. And I think Jay was in kindergarten.
Well, he started school, I know, after I took care of you. And
So how many years did we live in the trailer before we moved to Mrs. Buggy's house?
well, let's see. You kids came there in 1960. And no, 1961 in the spring, I think it was. And was it 64 that we bought the house?
Okay.
I think it was. So that's how many, I don't know how many years. I haven't got time to figure it out. My wedding dress cost $2.98, and my wedding hat cost 49 cents. And I got them in Yonkers at Sioux City. And the first thing that Gramps bought me after we were married was a pair of shoes. And at that time, I wore a size 7, and now I wear 9, so you know I grew after I was married.
When did you learn to drive?
Oh, I think I was about 11 or 12, and that's while we lived in North Dakota, and the sheep got out one morning and they yelled at me to bring the car. And so I got in the car and started across the pasture. And I had never driven before, but in the process my foot slipped off of this lever in the bottom of the thing. I don't even know what it was. It was a Model T. And the car just took off and went so good, and I thought, well, maybe you're not supposed to hold your foot on that. And that's how I learned to drive. Oh my, when I think about
And I've heard the story about when you were working in the field and you passed out.
Yes, I was shocking grain, and I got overheated, and I remember they set me in the shade of a shock of grain until I began to feel better, and then I got up and started shocking again.
How old were you?
Well, I must have been about 11 or 12, something like that.
And you had to pick corn too?
Well, I had to milk cows before I went to school, and I picked corn by hand, and I can remember the bang boards we used to have on the wagons. That's what a farm meant to me then, was a lot of hard work.
Did you ever, or where did you go on your honeymoon?
We went over into South Dakota, and we were there for a week. And then, the second night of our marriage, Cleo, Guy's brother, borrowed our car to take Vi home. She had to be at work the next morning. And so we had spent the day with his cousin, Guy Pyle, in Sioux City. And it got late, and they went to bed, and we went out and sat in their car waiting for Cleo to come back with our car. In the meantime, he had a flat, so he just pulled off and slept. So we sat up in this guy's pickup all night long, waiting for Cleo to come. And then when we got our car, we went to South Dakota and stayed a week. And then we went home, and we started housekeeping on $100. We didn't have a stick of furniture or anything.
So what kind of cooking did you do? What did you make for your meals?
Well, when I started housekeeping, I had a kerosene stove with a globe, and an oven that sat on 2 burners. And I tell you, it was burned on top and raw burned on the bottom and raw on top. That's the way it started out. And then Guy got me a cook stove that had a reservoir on it. So then, wonder of wonders, I had hot water out of this reservoir. And I can remember he paid 98 cents for an ironing board. And I ironed with flat irons, and we put them on the stove and turned a pan upside down over the top of them to keep them hot. And that's how we ironed. When the iron would get cool, we'd put that on, hook on to another one, put the handle on another one.
Was there one time when you had to be in a tent?
Yes, that was, we'd been married for a couple of years, I think, and Guy got a job with his cousin in this guy Pyle in Sioux City, and he had a truck garden, and we lived just across the road in a tent, and Guy worked in this truck garden, and he had a food stand up on, let's see, was it Morningside Avenue, I think it was then. And a guy bunched carrots and beets and stuff like this, and worked up there in this food stand. And while we were there, guy got real sick. And the doctor explained that it wasn't appendicitis. He said when everybody is born, they have this little bump on the intestine. And most people, it straightens out as you grow. But of course, Guy, it grew outward. And it was like an appendix. And it ruptured. And I don't know, he was in the hospital for about 2 weeks with that, I think. Then his mother came from Big Springs, Nebraska. And we had a pickup at that time. And when Guy got out of the hospital, then there was Cleo and Guy's mother and Lois and Guy and I all in that car. And I can remember we made Guy a bed in the back on the tent and stuff. Mm-hmm. And he rode to Benton on that, and the rest of us piled in where we could hang on. That was back in the Depression days, and you did a lot of things that you don't have to do now.
Well, you talk about going when you would pack a picnic lunch and travel from Benton up to Ottawa.
Yeah. We made what we call Bismarcks in that day. It's something like rolls now, you know, that you put a thing in the inserted jelly in, mm-hmm. and fried chicken, and whenever you got time to eat, we just pull off the side of the road and eat. Didn't have any refrigeration. I don't know how we survived then, but we did.
What was the best vacation you ever went on?
Oh my. I don't know. The guy and I used to have a lot of good vacations. We go to Florida, California, where it was warm in the wintertime, because he couldn't take a vacation in the summer. And in the summer, mostly we just fished and boat. We had skis and things like that.
So since you don't like the water, what did you do?
I didn't do anything, but I was the chief cook because I couldn't. That's one thing, I never learned to skate and I never learned to swim. But everybody else could. We'd go to Blue Lake in Ottawa. My dad and my brother Don and his family, and my brother Tony and his wife. I don't know, that went on for years.
Okay, yeah, Grant, we're asked to tell some things we remember about different things that happened, and one thing I've thought about a few times that's I think's kind of funny is probably the second or third time I took Steph out. We went to her prom, and I came and picked her up, and we went to the dance and did something else, and then we had to come back and change clothes. So I went in your bathroom and I changed clothes and set my clothes down on the hamper, and when I got done changing, then I picked them up and put them in my car. And so we went on with the night and everything was fine. And the next day I was getting my clothes out of the trunk. I put them in the trunk, and I was going through my clothes, and there was this pair of black lacy, I thought they were women's underwear. And of course I was extremely embarrassed, and I thought, I don't want to get caught with these. This will really be hard to explain. So I thought about it, what am I going to do with them? And so I had to go somewhere, so I just took my car and I drove a few miles away from home and I threw them out the window. And I thought, well, that's the end of that. And I still couldn't figure out where in the world they came from, but I thought somehow I must have grabbed a pair of your underwear and took them with me. And I sure didn't want anybody else to find them in my car. So anyway, I thought it was over. Well then, a while later I was talking to Steph, and we were discussing some things, and she said for some reason you had lost your cover for your hair that you wear when you have your curlers and stuff in, and they couldn't figure out, you know, where it had gone. Well, I come to find out that it was black and it was lacy, and so anyway, that's where it went. And I think she told you about it later on. And I did. It was gone when we went back to look for it, so I couldn't replace it. But it was kind of embarrassing, but it's pretty funny when we think about it.
Hi, Granny. We just want to share some memories with you. I'll start off with sharing one of them. I remember when I begged and begged to go on that trip with you and Aunt Lillian to go visit some friends of yours, and I can't even remember where it was. And we were going to be gone for a couple days, and so you said I could go, and I was really excited, and then I was like the worst company the whole time because I was homesick, and I remember like we had to drive back to church because I had to talk to Mom one more time. And then we like came back early because I just couldn't handle it. And you were so nice. But it was a fun trip anyway. But I don't know if you really had fun. But yeah, I just remember doing that to you.
And we were talking about it's kind of funny now since she's going to China that she couldn't even go away from home for 2 nights.
I've grown up a lot.
And I was remembering when we used to, in the summertime, we used to play in the trailer. We used to bring all those plastic dishes over there and play house. And sometimes we'd get Shane and Rory to play with us too. And then we'd make like crackers and we'd fill up the water glasses. And Claire remembers that I used to make her drink all the water because I told her we couldn't waste any, and then she'd be running to the bathroom all day.
Yeah. I still remember the day Rory broke the glass with the ball.
In the front of the porch.
And you were really mad. That was fun.
And then we were remembering about staying overnight. Beth was talking about how the movie that she always used to like to watch. Yeah, Beth's favorite used to be Look Who's Talking, and so we'd always watch it.
The best part was watching you laugh though, Granny, because you laughed so hard in that movie. That was so fun to watch you.
And we'd fold out the Davenport so we could sleep out there. And my favorite thing to watch at your house was on Nick at Night, the Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
And Green Acres. Claire and I were talking about that. Green Acres was another favorite.
Or Oklahoma. We always watched the old ones with you. Because we liked them. And then Beth didn't like them. So we watched Look Who's Talking.
And we also used to drink that mint iced tea. Or we'd get to have pop late at night, which we never did at home. And make popcorn. Mm-hmm. And then for supper time, we'd either... Oh yeah, we'd get chicken at Joyce's, and I'd have to get pea salad. Or sometimes we went to Pizza Hut.
Yeah, Pizza Ranch. Or Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
And we'd feed the fish.
Yeah, mostly feed the fish more than the swans, really.
Yeah.
That was at the time when I had the bread under my arm and then the swan came on.
Yeah.
Was it under your arm like this? And then
Yeah.
you just plucked it out. Yeah.
And then I always remember you being at all our soccer games, and everyone would be like, "Who's that lady in the hot pink running suit?" I'd be like, "That's my granny."
Yeah, you came to everything, Granny. Like, you came to all the soccer games, all the softball games,
Synchronized
synchronized
swimming.
swimming, anything musical.
Probably
That
had
was
to
cool.
sit through a lot of long programs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I was also thinking about the mother-daughter banquet.
Oh, I go to church.
Yeah, well then in later years, when the program got long, how we just used to go for supper and then sneak out afterwards because we didn't want to stay.
Yeah.
Hi, Granny. Happy birthday. Happy 90th birthday. It's a pretty amazing thing. I'm sitting at the end of the bed in Claire's dorm room. It's April 9th, and Genevieve and I came down to listen to Claire's choir concert. We ran out of time last Easter weekend to get it recorded there, so we're doing it here instead. I've been thinking about this, some things to say, some memories that I have. Of course, we talk about snapping beans and potting peas, and I can still see you in my mind walking up to the house with bushel baskets full of beets to hose off, and you and Lois standing in the kitchen cutting corn off the cob to put in the freezer, going out, watching you stand on your head in the strawberry bed and then screaming when a snake went by. Just all those memories of the summers. This time we had the swing where we could go out over the ravine down by the creek. All the times we got wet in the creek and got in trouble for getting wet and muddy or wet and cold. The times we'd sneak over to Lois's and have her clean up our clothes for us because we were too scared. I thought of the time where we kept telling Thad, back up, back up, back up. We were taking his picture so that he'd go backwards into Lois's bathtub that was her fish tank in the backyard. And then he landed on the Popeye fish and killed it. The times that the neighbors would call and say, they're killing each other in the front yard, and you would run out with a yardstick or a wooden spoon in your hand and chase us in. Just so many things. I mean, we just got to be normal kids. And I don't know how we'll ever give you enough gratitude for that we got to grow up in a two-parent family, that we knew love and security and comfort. We never lacked for anything. And I used to say that you would probably defend us to Satan himself if he tried to get after us, and I still believe that's true. I can remember coming home from kindergarten and having Jay sitting on the curb waiting for me. I can remember the time I got the scar on my little finger. Dad was shaving in the bathroom, and I was told to stay away from the razor blade, but I didn't. And for some reason I just remember sitting in there trying to think of what we were going to call Thad. So Mom must have been pregnant. I must have been less than 4 then. I thought of the trip that we took to South Dakota when we stayed in the cabins, when we went to the dinosaur park, and we went to Santa's Village, and we went to Mount Rushmore, and we used to drive Gramps nuts in the car because we had this game where we would talk with all the words in the same syllable, and got pulled over and spanked a few times for that one. You always had a lot of food in the car, so we were always hungry by the time we got to Denison or to Holstein or to Battle Creek, whichever direction we were going, we were always hungry. I think of all the good trips that we've had, even after Chuck and I got married. The infamous trip to Florida, where everyone became sick, all that way in the little Volkswagen Rabbit. You've gone to Texas with me every time. I think I've driven to Texas 4 times now. without Chuck, and you were along every time. There's just been so many things. The time we took, I think it was Miyoko, when we went up the Green River, up at Green, Iowa. We went up the Iowa River in the raft and had supper up there. There's so many things that I can remember that are good, and the times that you'd come and watch the girls when I was busy, either with Christian Women's Club or something else at church. And I know they mentioned all the games and activities of theirs that you've gone to, but you've come to my cantatas, and you've come to things that we were involved in too, and you've always been so supportive of every one of the activities. You've been supportive of Chuck and I's marriage, and if I wanted to complain or grouse a little bit, you know, you always were fair. You always stood up for Chuck, and you always have respected him and admired him, and I'm so grateful for that. And I just think it's really great that we're trying to get together. I hope this is a memorable birthday. I don't know if we can top your 80th for surprises, but I hope this is a good birthday. And I just want to thank you again, Gran, for all the love and care that you've given to me and to my family and to Jay's family and Thad's family. And I know that you're the glue that holds us together, and we love you a lot.